At Wind River Resort and Casino, we like to celebrate life's little moments. Oh, and the big ones too, because around here, when you're completely in the moment, that's when the magic happens. Come in and find your moment at Wind River Resort and Casino.
Good morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Mike Krueger. It is Friday, January 16th, and we're getting ready to head on into the weekend. Yesterday, what a beautiful, beautiful warm spring. Wait, it's not spring, it's winter, but it certainly felt like spring out there yesterday. We're going to go over those temperatures here in just a second, but right now, it's actually pretty mild in Redding right now at the airport. We've got a bit of a wind coming from the north. I'm seeing even winds upwards of 10, even close to 15 miles per hour, and that's really keeping things fairly warm. Look at Redding, 63 degrees out at the airport. Now, if you're in a wind-sheltered area, maybe kind of down into a little valley, it may be a lot cooler. In fact, it was weird. I was on a hike yesterday with my dog, Nessie, and I went down into a little canyon. It got really chilly, but then coming back up after the hike, back up top, I just noticed a major, major increase in those temperatures. So we're seeing that colder air really sink down, but that temperature inversion that we talk about with this area of high pressure that's in place, it's in full effect, folks. Look at Red Bluff, 46, but you head out to Shingletown, you're looking at 50, 54 degrees in Corning, 41 in Chico. But it is cold up in Alturas at 19 degrees, 22 in Susanville, and pretty cold out towards Weaverville and Hayfork in the low to mid 20s there. But look at Crescent City, 53 and 41 degrees in Eureka. All right, so now let's talk about those temperatures. Now, officially at the Redding Airport, the high was actually recorded at 78. I did see at one point it did get up to 79 at the airport. But the record at the airport in Redding is 80 degrees, set in 2014. And these are temperatures from yesterday, by the way. Now, Red Bluff, your record is also 80 degrees. Set back in 2014. But the official high at the Red Bluff Airport was, I believe, around 75, maybe 76. So other temperatures, though, I was looking at other temperature gauges around Redding and around Red Bluff, and you can see those temperatures got into the low 80s. So it was a lot warmer in many spots outside of where the official temperature gauge is. So just wanted to kind of point that out. We did not officially break a record yesterday, but unofficially, I'd say we did, because it was definitely a warm, warm day out there yesterday. And we got more of the same today, although maybe not as warm. Take a look at this too. Every morning, right, we've been talking about that freezing fog advisory for western Siskiyou County, which includes Etna, Fort Jones, in Scott Valley. All right, look at this. Another beautiful photo sent in by one of you, our viewers. Jason Danley sent this. He used the free Weather NorCal app. I've been advertising it all week, and you all have been delivering. So thank you, Jason, for taking the time to send that photo. And here you see it right here on Coffee with Krueger. You also saw it on my morning update here earlier this morning. There you can share your photos from the free Weather NorCal app, just like Jason did, and many other people did this week, from your iPhone and from your Android. So send those photos in, and maybe you'll see it right here on Coffee with Krueger. All right, let's get you out the door this morning. Here is a look at your Krueger's Quickcast for your Friday, January 16th. Out the door this morning, you can see how warm it is. Actually, it was in the 60s right at the Reading Airport, but the other areas are in the 40s. So on average, I'd say around upper 40s to low to mid 50s, somewhere there at 8 o'clock in the morning. But there you can see 20s and 30s for the higher elevations. Still some of that fog that we've seen out towards the valleys in Trinity County, Del Norte, Humboldt counties, and of course, as I mentioned, out in Scott Valley, western Siskiyou. Now, you'll notice the cold front, it's just stalling out. It can't move any farther to the east because that ridge of high pressure is blocking it from moving into our region. And it's diverting that energy to the north, and we've got this strong ridge of high pressure. Let me tell you something. If we had this same ridge of high pressure in the middle of the summer, it would be 110 degrees plus. I mean, this is a very strong ridge, and it's going to show signs of getting weaker and breaking down later next week. But look at the visibility today. It looks pretty good. Plenty of sunshine even for Chico. We're still seeing that potential for fog creeping its way northward into Willows and Chico tomorrow morning, but then burning off again in the afternoon. And then it looks like by Saturday night we may see a little bit more of that potential for some of that patchy fog for parts of the valley. So the chance of potential patchy fog is still out there. I'm going to take a look at the latest coming in because sometimes I don't know exactly when they update it, but it's still at 31. I'd be willing to guess that it might be a little bit lower than that, but the top of Douglas is at 31 inches. Now, I posted this on social media yesterday, but Mount Ashland, the ski area up there, they have essentially closed indefinitely as they reported. There was only 24 inches out at the base of the ski park, and it apparently wasn't enough to keep the park open. They also announced that they're going to be refunding people's money for the ski passes. So kind of interesting. I'm not sure if they're going to close for the entire season or if they're hoping for more snow eventually and they can reopen. But I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't heard any official word. I haven't talked to any of the officials over that Mount Shasta Ski Park. I do know that they are trying to mitigate some of the snowmelt that they're seeing out there because we just got so much sun, right? And the angle of the sun is getting higher and it's melting a lot of that snow through the day. And when there's more people skiing on it, it also kind of lowers that snow level as well. So no official reports, but we're just continuing to see that snow dwindle more and more. But hopefully they can kind of keep things alive until the next snow comes. But that doesn't look very promising, folks, and we're going to get into that a little bit later in our deeper dive forecast, but let's take a look at the rest of the day today. Now, I've got 74 for Reading. If we get up to 80 again in some spots, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. So we'll see what happens with those temperatures, but it's going to be another very warm day. Temperatures in the 50s and 60s for the higher elevations and low 60s for the coast. Now, for tonight, we've got low 40s in the valley, 20s and 30s for the higher elevations, and looks like in the low 40s tonight for the coast. So look at the overall trend for the next 7 days. We're in the low 60s Wednesday, Thursday, and really what you'll notice here for everybody is that's the case. We're going to start to see a slight dip in our temperatures over the weekend, but we're going to notice it even more so by the middle and latter part of next week. And for all of the mountains, for the coast, for the valley, all seeing that. Now, potential for rain. Some of your apps that are not Weather NorCal may be stating that it's going to rain on possible chance of rain on Thursday. I can't in good conscience put that in the forecast just yet. There's just really no consistency in the long-range forecast models. There's no agreement. It's going back and forth. At this point in time, I would say that the best chance would be toward the end of this month into the beginning of next month in February. But come on, that's a long way out, folks. We can't even begin to guarantee that or make any promises on that. So that is a look at your Krueger's Quickcast. If that's all you needed for the day, have a great day. If not, stick around. We're going to be taking a look at that deeper dive, talk more about those chances for rain and that snow in the long range here in just a bit, and how we're doing for the season with rain and snow and how the lakes are looking. We're going to have all of that coming up in our deeper dive forecast here in just a bit. But first, let's take a look at some of the cameras around the area. There's a look at Lake Oroville, North Forebay, Main Street, Chico. You've got, of course, looks like a little bit of patchy fog trying to develop there, as well as Neal Road. And one of the things that I'm seeing here, if you look way off in the distance in the upper right corner of that screen, you'll see those radio towers blinking red. They're faintly blinking red, which tells me that the visibility has dropped a little bit in that area, which is why we're probably still going to see some of that patchy fog this morning. Here's a look at Sutter Buttes. The last few mornings, we haven't seen much fog in the valley, but now we're seeing a little bit more of that. So the farther south you go, you get to Sacramento, folks, it's going to be, you're talking quarter-mile visibility or less. And taking a look at Crescent City Harbor District, absolutely gorgeous shot there. It looks like a boat heading out to do some fishing. All right, let's take a look at Bald Hill West. We're actually starting to see, looks like a few breaks in those low clouds there. This is typically looking down at Hoopa Valley. Beautiful shot of Mount Shasta. You can still see some of the stars kind of hanging out there. And taking a look at Fort Jones. This is looking down at Scott Valley. There it is. There is the standard every morning fog that we've been seeing in Fort Jones, and is persisting through a good portion of the day as well. Taking a look at Lassen Park this morning, and we still have plenty of snow up there as well. Today is Friday. We got our Pet of the Week, which is sponsored by Grange Co-op, and this week, who do we meet? I can't remember who we met, but we're going to meet a very cute dog. Check it out.
Hi, this is Maisie with Haven Humane Society in Anderson, and this is our incredible Pet of the Week, Dawson. Dawson is a 3-year-old Heinz 57 mix. We're not quite sure what he is, but he has a beautiful spotted coat. He is super treat and toy motivated. If you're looking for a dog to do outdoor activities with, or maybe even getting into dog sports with, we think he'd be a great candidate. He is incredibly friendly, but he is also independent. He loves to play with toys on his own. He's perfectly content doing his own thing and doing his own zoomies. But like any dog, he does love a good pet or a good old belly rub. His adoption fee is fully sponsored, and he is one of our longer term residents. Dawson has been at Haven Humane for 135 days. So we're hoping that making him Pet of the Week will help him find his forever home, because he really does deserve it. So if you're looking to add to your family, please come down to Haven Humane in Anderson, or give us a call at 530-241-1653 to make an appointment.
That is, I mean, what an awesome dog. I mean, come on. If you're looking for a dog and you're wondering what you're going to get, I'd say that Dawson is the way to go. And here's the cool part. It's sponsored, right? It's been paid for, the fees. So yeah, go on out there. Call Haven Humane. Be sure to get that out. Once again, I want to thank Grange Co-ops for their sponsorship of Pet of the Week, and of course the pet family segment in general. Be sure to check out their store. They got some great stuff over there at their store here. We got a couple people checking in this morning. We have got, looks like Curtis Brown checking in saying, "Good morning, Mike. I overslept. Where's my coffee?" Oh, you know, I overslept once in the time that I've been doing this Weather NorCal, and I was able to kind of make it through. And yeah, I think I needed an extra cup of coffee out there this morning. So good luck finding your cup of coffee, Curtis. I hope you find it. Hope you get that cup of coffee. Jackie Dixon saying, "Good morning from Trinidad. Thank you, Mike, for all your great work. Have a great weekend." You too, Jackie. Always nice to see you. And I'm assuming that's your daughter there. "We need more snow. Makes me worried for fire risk." 100%. We could certainly use more snow. And it just doesn't look promising. I've even read on the interwebs that some people are calling what we're seeing up in our mountains a snow drought. But we're going to discover later that California is actually not under a drought, but we'll get into that in the deeper dive here in just a bit. But first, we need to mention our sponsor of Coffee with Krueger, and that is at Wind River Resort and Casino. Enjoy friendly service, a wide variety of specials and promotions, plus all of your favorite slots and table games. All right, so before we get into the deeper dive, we're going to talk about what we're going to be really talking about here in the deeper dive, and that's potential for more valley fog. It's going to be the patchy fog, but most of the fog that we're seeing has been in the mountain valleys, in particular Scott Valley in western Siskiyou County. Above average highs through early next week, although temperatures are going to start to slowly drop over the next several days. High pressure is breaking down next week. That's a sign of change. Temperatures may drop a bit, but unfortunately, rain chance is not looking all that great. Some models want to, throw in maybe a slight chance on Thursday for some, but I'm going to have to say I don't think that's going to happen at this point, but we'll see. End of the month, maybe. Beginning of next month, maybe. There are signs pointing in that direction, but listen, we're a long way out, and to start ironing that out and say, yep, that's going to happen, no, you can't do that. But what we can say is there is maybe some hope, and we can certainly, that's the best we can do at this point, right? So we're going to get into all of that in the deeper dive forecast. How we're doing with the lakes, how we're doing with water content as far as how we're doing for the season, and we're also going to take a look at that snowpack and just how low it is. But first, a word from our sponsor of the deep dive forecast, and that is Shasta Hearing Aids.
Hearing isn't just about sound, it's about being part of every moment. This isn't your grandparents' hearing aid, it's a smart hearing aid for modern life. It's Bluetooth enabled, easy to control from your phone with your personal prescription, delivering the clarity you need. All that technology at half the cost of competitors, so you never miss a moment worth hearing. With our Here For You program, you get personal care and support every step of the way. This is what quality care sounds like.
Temperature-wise, they're all over the board, folks. Of course, that's always to be expected, especially this time of the year in Northern California. Look at El Tourist, 19. Look at Redding, 63. Now, I was checking just before I went here live on Coffee with Krueger, and I noticed there's a bit of a north wind coming off the mountains here. And we're talking, I've even seen some winds upwards of 10, even 15 miles per hour. That's really enough to really keep those temperatures up a bit. And where areas that are sheltered by the winds in the valley, we're talking temperatures mainly in the 40s. 22 degrees for Susanville, 24 in Weaverville. We've got 40s and even some low 50s for you along the coast. Big ridge of high pressure, this right here. This cold front, this storm system, it's trying to move in, but it can't. It's butting up against the ridge and has nowhere to go but up, or even an area of low pressure that's beginning to take shape here. But overall, we're just going to watch this ridge of high pressure slowly break down as we go into the weekend and as we go into early next week. There's the ridge of high pressure. You'll notice it's not nearly as strong. Temperatures as a result will start to drop. There were some indications that this area of low pressure right here was going to kind of push down into central California and maybe even bring with it a chance for some showers. That now looks like it's going to weaken a bit, but we do have some energy that could be moving through as we go into Thursday. But the problem is most likely it's going to be fairly moisture starved and it won't have a lot of moisture to work with. So at this point, I'm not anticipating much in the way of any rain, if anything. Quite honestly, just those cooler temperatures that'll be working their way in. But look at this. Then as we get to the end of next week, around next Friday, maybe another weak ridge of high pressure building in. No, let's try to get some more storm systems in here. We've certainly seen a long enough break from this wet weather. We could certainly use more. So we look at the moisture content, and that's one of the reasons why I'm not too confident that we're going to see much in the way of rain. Because as you see, as we go into Thursday, sure, it is picking up on a little bit of moisture. As you can see right here, the green and some of the blue kind of kicking in here, but that's still fairly dry. So there may be just enough for that disturbance I was showing you on Thursday to squeeze out a little bit, maybe for places along the coast and some of the higher elevations, but overall, I just expect it to stay dry through next week. In fact, taking a look at Friday, another little surge of dry air begins to move in, and that's really just going to prevent us from really seeing any rainfall. Now, this is certainly a sign of good things to come because you can see we're at least in the near normal. What that's saying is equal chance of seeing above or below normal rainfall. I know that's very vague, right? But instead of being in these browns here, that's usually very promising that you aren't going to see rain. As you start getting in the greens, that's a little bit more promising that you're going to see the rainfall. So we're at least in between that, and we're starting to see those signs of change move in. But overall, just not a whole lot for most likely the rest of the month. Now, the fog has mainly been the most dense to our south in the Sacramento region and southward. We've seen it burn off a little bit in some areas here, but we're still seeing it trying to creep its way into places like Glenn County, Butte County. But bottom line, as we go through the next several mornings and even overnights, there's a chance for some of that fog, patchy fog, for parts of the valley. But I don't expect it to be widespread, and I don't expect it to stick around for very long. So one more little spike in the temperatures. And I'm going to say this right now. I mean, I've got 74 degrees for the high in Redding, but honestly, if we see another 80-degree day for some of you in the north end of the valley, I wouldn't be surprised, right? But we do expect to see that dip in the temperatures, but still above normal. I mean, even though we're going to see 75 or upper 70s today, that's well above normal. The normal high is 57, so we could be upwards of 20 degrees above normal, closer to 10 degrees above normal as we go into the weekend and early next week, but then temperatures just start to slowly migrate downward, and then we're talking upper 50s by the time we get into the end of next week and into that next weekend. Let's take a look at the lake levels here. So you can see here that we are still looking very, very healthy, right? 132% of historical average for Shasta Lake, for Trinity Lake, 136%, and 138% for Lake Oroville. So healthy, right? Over 80% in most cases for the capacity right now. So if you look at the lakes, you see they're looking good, right? We take a look at the rain season. Also looking really good. The little anomaly here is Crescent City at 91%. But everyone else still over 100%. Let's take this out of here just so you can see it. There's a look at Montague, right? That's just east of El Turris, 111%. So you get the idea. We have a lot of rain. We've got a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, or should we say water content, right? We got the rain. We've had lots of rainfall. The lakes are looking good. But the snowpack, that's a completely different story. I've even read some articles mentioning snow drought. I don't know if that's necessarily an official term, but we are seeing the snowpack right here. But take a look right for the percent of April average, percent of April 1st average, 28%. But normal to date, 59%. And last time I reported just a few days ago, it was at about 101% normal to date Southern Sierra. Now it's below 100% at this point. And the statewide average is at about 80%. So could we use some more snow? 100%. Yes, we could. Again, we take a look at, and this is outside of the California region, but I mentioned earlier, the Ashland Ski Park, they close indefinitely because there's just no snow in the forecast anytime soon. And Mount Shasta Ski Park, no official word as to whether or not they're going to close anytime soon, but I'd say they're not too far behind. They're going to continue to see that snow melt over the next several days through the weekend. Hopefully, there can still be some skiing here today and through the weekend. But as far as any snow is concerned, let me tell you something. As we go into next week, I'm not seeing anything all that promising. And as we go to the end of the week, yes, I am seeing the potential for some wet weather at the end of the month. But the problem is, where's that storm coming from? It's coming from the south. And it's a fairly warm storm system, and that would mean high snow levels, probably above 6,000 feet. But one of the things I want to stress is I mentioned that's not guaranteed that, number one, we're even going to see that rainfall, but number two, that's what the snow levels would be. But it's something a trend that I'm seeing here, and we're going to have to watch it closely. And we can only hope for the best. So with all of that being said, for the second week in a row, all of California is drought-free. We'll take that at least, right? And you can take a look at the cross the nation, though, a lot more areas seeing those serious drought conditions. Now, we look at the wave heights. They're low. I've been seeing a lot of small boats out there for fishing this morning out on the Crescent City Harbor District, but there you can see, looks like we are seeing fairly low wave heights. So taking a look at the winds from the west at 5 knots, there is a small correct advisory, at least for the morning. That should be allowed to expire later this afternoon. Taking a look at your Dignity Health neighborhood forecast, there you can see, of course, temperatures are in the upper 50s, low 60s, although Ruth, you're getting up to about 69 degrees, 62 degrees out in Blue Lake. Just another gorgeous day. Despite the fact that we do need the snow, but the rain, the lakes, they're still looking healthy. No drought conditions as of yet right now either. 65 degrees for Orleans and 60 in Willow Creek. Out towards Siskiyou County, we're seeing that fog in Scott Valley and some of the mountain valleys in western Siskiyou County. Otherwise, plenty of sunshine. Elsewhere in Siskiyou County and Modoc County, temperatures mainly in the 50s, although Cedarville a high today of about 44. In the eastern mountains, you've got a lot of sunshine. Temperatures mainly 50s, give or take, right? Because you're talking 73 for Paradise, but you're talking 48 in Janesville. So a lot of microclimates just within the eastern mountains itself. We take a look at the Valley neighborhood forecast. Yeah, I think many of us to the south could see some upper 60s, even maybe some low 70s. Taking a look at Chico, temperatures eventually dropping down to the low 60s by Sunday, Monday, and eventually upper 50s by Wednesday and Thursday of next week. All right, taking up to the north, you can see Redding about 74. And again, I've got these advertised temperatures at 74, 75. But if we see 80 degrees for some of you today to the north, maybe even out towards the Red Bluff area, I wouldn't be surprised. Otherwise, you're talking about 75 for Palisadro. That's Red Bluff, right? I need to maybe adjust this map to adjust. Yeah, that's Red Bluff 73. Covering up that Red Bluff, but you can at least see the number. That's Red Bluff, 73 degrees. All right, let's take a look at the 7-day forecast for Redding. And what we've got here are temperatures dropping slightly. So really, the peak of this warming trend is yesterday and today, and then we're going to see temperatures kind of start to drop a little bit as we go into the weekend, but still very pleasant weather here. If you have outdoor plans for the weekend, maybe a hike, maybe a walk of the dog, maybe a bike ride, maybe whatever it is you want to do outside, should be some gorgeous weather for it. All right, let's check in with some of you this morning. Just as I was going out to the weather wall, we had Anita Fitzpatrick saying 25 in Aden. Whew. That is chilly. If you live in the higher elevations, that is for sure. We've also got Jeff Johnson saying, good morning, Mike. What a great day, great few days we've had, but I know it can't last. Number one, it can't, because we could certainly use the rain, right? And the snow in the higher elevations, so we just kind of talked about that. But number two, it's January. We got February. It's going to be colder. It's going to be wetter. Let's be optimistic and say it will be, because that certainly would be nice. We have got Wacy saying, good morning. We've got Pauline Roberts saying, hello, hello, good morning, and good morning to you. And of course, that was Wacy from Ukiah saying hello. So it's second day in a row watching from Ukiah. Thank you for watching. We've got Pauline Roberts saying, what happened to winter? What happened to winter indeed? That is a very good question. It seems like it's been a very unusual season, right? Because number one, a lot of the snow that we did see in the mountains, initially these storms were very warm, so we had very high snow levels. That reduces the snowpack. Then it was toward the end of December, we saw the colder storms move in, and that lowered the snow levels, and that was what allowed us to see the ski park open and all that good stuff, right? But here we are now, and we're just not seeing any more snow or rain anytime soon at this point, so there you go. We've got a few more people checking in this morning. We've got Debbie Castro saying good morning. She's saying, thanks, Mike, enjoying the sun while it is here. You know, I am. I took Nessie out for a walk yesterday. And I was mentioning this earlier. It was really weird because I went for a hike, and then I went kind of down into a little canyon, and it was suddenly quite chilly, actually. But then we went for the hike in a little canyon and kind of hanging out. Nessie's running around, chasing rocks, all that stuff. I come back up the hill, and it was like, it felt like a 20-degree difference. It was just so much warmer. So it was really interesting that we're seeing all this colder air really get trapped into these lower canyons. And that's where we're seeing a lot of the fog in the morning, by the way. And that's kind of kind of an example of that temperature inversion. As you go higher in elevation, you tend to see those temperatures warm up. And that was very much of a very small microclimate where I was, and a very small example. But it was definitely very interesting. Then we've got, what do we got here? Wacy saying, was 30 in Ukiah yesterday morning. Ooh, definitely chilly out there. Glad to see Tehama where I live is warm, but that's warm for this time of the year. Yeah. Red Bluff, got up to about 80 degrees, as well as the Redding area as well. So record in Redding and Red Bluff is 80 degrees from yesterday. The record is 80 degrees set in 2014. So definitely interesting to see just how warm that was. Let's take a look at those temperatures. Yeah, I mean, there it is. Here we go. There it is. Thursday's high, right? 82 degrees for the Redding Fire Station. So again, unofficially we broke a record. And I say that because the airport actually reported a high of 78, but I did see at one point it did get up to 79. At the Red Bluff Airport, it was like, I think 74, 75. But all around the airports, both in Red Bluff and Redding, temperatures were in the low 80s, the temperatures. And again, as I mentioned, the record high yesterday was 80 degrees. So unofficially, yes, I'd say we broke that record. So definitely very interesting to see those numbers because it doesn't feel like winter at all, does it? Definitely a very unusual week, really, is what it's been. And it's been a week. I'm so ready for the weekend. And speaking of the weekend, what do you say we wrap up the show and get ready for the weekend? I know some of you may have to work today, but today's Friday. You're getting ready to start thinking about making some plans. Maybe you want to do something outside. That's what I would say. Maybe you want to do something like, I don't know, go to Mount Shasta, go somewhere where you can get a nice view of this. How gorgeous is that? All right, folks, that's going to do it for us this morning. Thank you for checking in. We've got, Barry saying good morning as well. Thank you, Barry. Let's give her a little bit of love here. There you go. Good morning to you, Barry. Glad to see you, and glad to see everybody out there this morning as well. It is Friday. I'm getting ready for the weekend. And then, of course, be sure to check in with Chase Wilson. Yep. He is my weekend meteorologist, and he is doing an amazing job, wouldn't you say? He's been working for me for now over 2 years, and he's been amazing. So I'm very excited to still have him on board. He'll be giving you the forecast over the weekend. I'll be back next week. In the meantime, have yourselves a great rest of your day and an even better weekend.